Okay. A few things in my speech. First, I will talk about how the rivalry will look like, how is focusing on the camaraderie is different, and then I will give 4 points. Firstly, how it creates necessary hate, the rivalry, and how it undervalues the women's performance in sports. Thirdly, how it's the camaraderie improves mental health and well-being of the athletes, and fourthly, how it challenges gender stereotypes. Okay, let me start from what does the rivalry even look like. The media often portrays female athletes' interactions through a lens of the conflict. For instance, like simple moments like glances, ignoring each other, or not celebrating together are being exaggerated to suggest some hate between the rivalries. In the figure skating world, for example, interactions between like Russian skaters Alina Zagitova and Evgenia Medvedeva are frequently like scrutinized, with minor incidents blown out of proportion to suggest tensions, such as Alina allegedly ignoring Evgenia after performance or reversed. These narratives create a toxic environment that emphasizes this as a hate rather than celebrating athletic achievements. Not only are their interactions being portrayed in a negative way, but their performances in sport as well. For example, their performances are being compared all the time to each other. One side hates on another. And how is focusing on the camaraderie is different. Instead of portraying them as enemies, they show the good side of their interactions without exaggerating their actions, like ignoring each other when they just walked past each other. For example, when one congratulated another one with the win, showing respect and admiration. Okay, let me move to the arguments. Firstly, how the rivalry creates unnecessary hate. The media's focus on rivalries often creates tensions between athletes' fan bases. By portraying rivals in a negative light or exaggerating conflicts, the media can incite animosity among fans. This can lead to a polarized environment where fans engage only in aggressive behaviors towards each other. Most of the people who watch sports have their favorites or someone they're praying for to win. Sports fans are emotionally invested in their favorite athletes. And when the media highlights the negative aspects of the rivalries, fans might view these portrayals as personal attacks against their favorites, which leads to defensive reactions, increasing the overall hate between the fan bases. At the end of the day, both sides are being hated by each other's fan bases. For example, Alina Zagitova and Evgenia Medvedeva, their fans were hating on each other everywhere on media. This cycle of negativity can damage the athlete's public image and create a toxic environment surrounding the sport. Focusing on the camaraderie instead of rivalry could mitigate this issue, promoting a more positive and supportive fan culture. Okay, let's move to the second point. How the rivalry undervalues of the women's performances in sports. Rivalry-focused media coverage can overshadow and diminish the value of athletes' achievements. When the narrative centers around competition and conflict, the focus shifts from celebrating athletes' skills and hard work to fueling debates and criticism about who deserves to win. This emphasis on rivalry can lead to actually public judgment and a fair criticism of athletes' performances. And this undermines the recognition of their dedication, skill, and accomplishments. Fans and media may focus on controversies and disputes rather than appreciating the athletes' achievements. For example, Alina Zagitova, who won a gold medal in Olympics in figure skating, and because of what Evgenia Medvedeva got silver, not only was hated by Evgenia Medvedeva's fans for that, but also described as unworthy. And people talked about her winning over Evgenia as unfair judgment, undervaluing all of her years spent to win this gold medal. The same happened with Alexandra Trusova, lost to Anna Sherbakova, who won gold in the last figure skating Olympics. And this happens every year in figure skating, where media mostly focuses on the rivalry. These girls have been preparing for this moment their whole lives, just to be judged by everyone for winning gold. And this moment is supposed to be their happiest moment, but people from their country where they were performing for are hating on them. Highlighting camaraderie and mutual respect could shift this focus back to recognizing and valuing athletes' hard work and successes. Moving to the third point, how this improves the mental health and well-being of the athletes to a better side. So athletes are under constant scrutiny, and narratives that focus on the rivalry often causes a stress, pressure, and even mental health issues. All of their actions being like judged. They're being under the media pressure all the time. And rivalry-focused coverage puts immense mental pressure on athletes as they are constantly under scrutiny, not just for their performances, but all of their interactions with their rivalries. This can lead to anxiety, burnout, and other mental health issues. The media scrutiny faced by the Simone Biles during the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, where her mental health struggles were highly publicized, highlights the impact of the intense media focus. Highlighting the camaraderie instead of fosters like a healthier environment where athletes can thrive without the added pressure of being portrayed as bad guys, allowing them to perform without the constant fear of negative public judgment. And this is extremely important for the women in sports because this can lead to a better mental health outcomes and improved performances because they can focus finally on their performances rather than being thinking about what people will think about them. Lastly, how this challenges the gender stereotype in the women's sports. Women's sports are often overshadowed by the narrative of pitting women against each other, reinforcing harmful stereotypes that women cannot work together or support one another. Even there's like a lot of stereotypes in women's friendship that there is no friendship between women. And this stereotype by the rivalry between women in sport causes even bigger like judgment towards like friendship between women. Focusing on the camaraderie, which challenges stereotypes, highlighting the women athletes can be competitive and yet still supportive of each other. They don't have to hate each other, and they still can be friends. For all these reasons, the camaraderie is better than focusing on a rivalry because it's firstly it helps the athletes to feel more comfortable and safe environments in their sports. And secondly, they don't have to be hated all the time. And thirdly, it challenges the gender stereotype. For all these reasons, we are proud to propose.
Oh, crap, my video. Hold on. Okay, I'm just gonna like talk this way. Sorry, because I have a monitor. I'm gonna do 5 main points of rebuttal in this speech, then 2 arguments. First, why rivalry is likely to bring more fame and success to women's sports, and second, why rivalry is better for women as a whole. First, on rebuttal, they firstly explained to us that the media is likely to make rivalries very exaggerated, creating a hence toxic environment, i.e. comparing performances, etc. And so in general, the media just tend to have bad incentives and are likely to portray rivalry badly. It's important to note that presumably the analysis as to why the media would have incentives to do this, why there are different like profit incentives that would cause them to portray rivalry in a toxic way, could also apply to camaraderie, right? Which is to say that a lot of this camaraderie may, for example, be forced, that you like force people to smile and laugh when they're like lost, even though they're clearly upset, or for example, trying to basically push friendships even though individuals may have serious issues with each other, that like some female athletes who may feel as if they're not being represented enough, especially minority athletes, are simply told to just smile about it or simply told to not complain because it's all about supporting each other, even if they are ones who are particularly disadvantaged in comparison to others. I think it is entirely possible that camaraderie can also be portrayed in a way that particularly helps already advantaged and privileged women while simply telling disadvantaged women to shut up. The second thing they say is that there's likely to be unnecessary hate, i.e. fan wars, polarization, and in some cases very aggressive behaviors because these fans are quite emotionally invested. Note that all of this analysis still exists regardless of whether or not the media portrays sports with camaraderie or with rivalry, which is to say, most loyal fans who are very dedicated and would go to the extent of aggressive behaviors probably exist anyway and care a lot about their favorite athlete or their favorite team succeeding, even if the media isn't portraying this. So just look at, for example, a lot of local football leagues or basketball teams, which like local fans are very very dedicated fans of, even if there isn't a lot of media coverage on them. That, some of the most like crazy fan bases do come from pretty like obscure small villages rather than like the biggest franchises and the biggest teams. So what does this mean then? It probably means that there is a big difference between you not liking an athlete or the media encouraging you to dislike an athlete versus you being explicitly willing to cause harm. The vast majority of fans, especially new ones that come in from actually watching this media coverage, are unlikely to be the ones who are so dedicated to be willing to actually be engaged in aggression against these athletes. Like, most people just don't care enough or don't have the time. In comparison, the loyal fans that are likely to do this will probably do it on either side of the house, because even if the media isn't criticizing it, you still don't like that your team lost. The third thing they say is that this diminishes the value of athletes' achievements because women are likely to receive hate. There's question of whether or not they deserve these things, etc., etc. I think there's a couple things to note here. The first thing to note is that even though there may be some hate which is unjustified, some of this criticism may be well justified, which is to say, I don't think it's true that, when African-American basketball players in the WNBA are unhappy that it's predominantly white women who are getting all of the attention and getting all of the media coverage, and they hence engage in rivalries because of that. I don't think that is something that is unjustified to cover. I think those criticisms are legitimate, and it is okay to hold like both the WNBA and fans accountable and call them out when they think they're being treated unfairly. But the second thing to note here is that there are obviously other ways in which hatred comes, right? The criticism does not just come from rivalry. And let's just be realistic. When the media is covering women's sports or any sports, it's not just covering whether or not these two people are best friends or whether or not these two people are like hate each other. They're also covering individual performances, i.e. like the score that you got this time versus last time, whether or not this team has continued their winning streak or things like that. Those are things that exist separately of camaraderie and rivalry, and that is where a lot of criticism can occur too. I think it's just natural for the media to want to criticize and like evaluate the performance of different teams because those are things that people care about. It helps people project like whether or not people are going to win. If the concern is that hate is really bad, I think like bad hate can exist on either side of the house for different reasons. And notably, this also addresses their fourth point on mental health issues, because presumably scrutiny can come from other means that also make you feel bad about yourself. If you underperformed and lost a championship, regardless of whether or not you are like best friends with the person who won, you still feel really bad about losing. The media is also going to laud about like, oh my gosh, this person lost when they won last time. That has nothing to do with rivalry. Those are things that exist anyway. The fifth thing to note is on harmful stereotypes. They say this is bad because it suggests that you can't have friendships between women. I just think this is presumably like not how rivalry works. Obviously, it is not going to be that every woman hates each other in women's sports. There presumably will be portrayals of, like, for example, some women backing each other, like women on the same team supporting each other when they're fighting a rival team. That is friendship that can still occur. I think the more important message is that women do not have to be friends with every other woman, that it is okay for someone to be upset, to be angry, to feel like cheated or unjustified in a certain sports league, and that it is okay for them to do that rather than them always having to just smile and suck it up. The first argument I want to talk about then is why rivalry is likely to bring more fame and success to women's sports. The premise here is that fame and success is the most important factor in this debate. Even if there may be some women who have worse mental health or maybe are struggling more, it is more important that the vast majority of women's athletes are able to gain improved qualities of life, i.e. when you have more ticket sales, everyone's salaries go up, that you get more benefits. Those are things that both help a lot more women, but they also help women with their mental health, which is to say that when you are able to, for example, afford like a nice holiday with your family, or you have better retirement funds, those are things that do help you significantly to make it feel like the sport is worth it, especially given the narrow margins that women's sports operate on. This is crucial when it comes to the difference between someone keeping their job or not. So how does rivalry attract more attention? First, viewers and fans generally enjoy drama and tension much more because the suspense built means that people are excited to see how these controversies and how these rivalries will resolve themselves. You create this storyline, which is to say people are able to have these narratives about different teams, like Iowa being able to beat South Carolina, who are undefeated for the first time in the semifinals, or LSU taking revenge for South Carolina when they then beat them in the finals. Those are things that really matter and are things that keep people continuing to watch. This is crucial because even if it might be nice to watch people hug each other once on TV, there's no reason for me to come back attack. But when I am invested and I want to see how the storyline plays out, then I keep watching. Then I go to then I watch like those channels that stream these videos, or then I go to those games, and that is where that money comes in. But second, you're just also likely to have more intense and exciting gameplay, that there's significance and depth added to teams winning or losing when you know that like these are people that they've been rivals with for ages, when players themselves might play into this rivalry, that there's more shots of trash talk, etc., that fires up the audience, that makes people excited. It makes people more willing to watch. Note, this doesn't just address fans that existed before, but also newer fans that are watching this. This becomes something that they think might be interesting and worth continuing to watch. The comparative is that even though camaraderie may be nice to see or like give you a good feeling, it is generally boring. It's repetitive. It's one wholesome shot, and that's it. And the other thing is that it's also often forced. Just note the nature of a sports game is that it is very competitive. It's very intense. People are exhausted. The players are working on very high energy. As such, it is natural that rivalry and hatred or frustration is likely to show itself in the court. It's much less natural that you are always able to be happy for each other when you've worked so hard and you still weren't able to fulfill your goal. So it's much more likely that camaraderie on their side is something that looks artificial, while our rivalry is often likely to be at least somewhat actually real. The second thing quickly is on why focusing on rivalry is better for women. This is crucial because it breaks the expectation that women need to be kind or graceful and mature, that they can never overreact, and if they're angry or they hate someone, they're always a bitch. The understanding context here is that a lot of these female athletes may have justified reasons to dislike someone. I think those are things that are good to show instead of always trying to portray women as like very mature and kind. For these reasons, proud to oppose.